Good afternoon. This is a meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Today is November the 1st, 2018, and I'm calling this meeting to order. The first item we have is a roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Erasmo Villarreal,
Present.
Jose Tellez, Carlos Flores. Present. Javier Compián, Raúl Ovalde. Present. Johnny Narvaez.
Present.
Joe Villarreal. Daniel Lopez. Jorge Dominguez.
Present.
For the record, Mr. Shuram, you do have quorum.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Compián has requested to be excused.
Okay, thank you. We have Commissioner Compián. I had a call from Commissioner Joe Villarreal. He's in San Antonio on business. And I understand Mr. Danny Lopez is also tied up in business, and he may join us later. I don't know about Commissioner Diaz. But for the record, I would like to excuse the commissioners that did call in.
So move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? And a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item that we have, everybody can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item that we have is the approval of the minutes.
The minutes were left in front of your,
Yes. I'll give you all a minute to review them. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Hold on. Looking for an item. Okay, no question.
Okay. Do I hear a motion for approval?
Motion for approve.
A second?
Second.
And a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Do we have any citizens' comments?
not at the moment.
No, nobody filled out any citizens' comments, okay?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I would like to ask to move item A and B, which are the ordinances, to first item.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. First item that we have is item 8A. Is it 8? Wait a minute. I'm sorry, it's 11A, right?
11A and 11B.
And
All right. 11A. This is, let's see here. Here we go. This is a discussion regarding the City of Laredo Irrigation Ordinance, Chapter 25-80 through 25-85 of the Code of Ordinances of the, and Section 24-83.10, Section 5 of the Land Development Code, and any other matters incident to this. Yes, sir.
Yes, good evening, commission members and chairman. My name is Roland Lozano with the City of Laredo. I am the, liaison for the Technical Review Board and among other things. The Technical Review Board has reviewed by City Council directed to look at the irrigation ordinance. And as you guys well know about the street ordinance that was passed, the new pavement ordinance. So in part of that, there was a lot of discussion on how irrigation could have affected streets. Therefore, the Technical Review Board looked at the irrigation ordinance. We did meet with licensed irrigators. And we got them involved as to a design. And basically, this is just an introductory. There's no, you're not going to be able to do any decisions on this today, I guess. So we, in changing of the, the ordinance, it needs to come to this commission. Basically, what they were tasked to do was to look at as it, not the overall irrigation ordinance, but just how it affected the streets. The designs, and is there extra water being dumped onto the streets, and is that really causing, an issue? So, with that task on hand, they kind of came up with, and I'll just kind of give you a preview. It'll still be brought up again on the next meeting, probably, for,
December 6th.
which,
On the meeting on December 6th, it's gonna come back for action.
so, okay, so then, right now, I'm just gonna kind of give you the first 5 feet inside the property. They kind of want the irrigation heads to be kind of pushed back, not on the right of way. The current ordinance allows for irrigation heads to be put on the right of way. So, so what this committee said, to put, they can still have landscaping on the right of way, but with drip irrigation lines, no heads. Because a lot of times what they were saying, irrigators were saying, was either a car ran over it or somebody hit it and they weren't sure, and then all of a sudden they had a big leak. Things like that. And, we also went over the grass and how certain grasses need more water. Like one of the fan favorites is San Agustin grass. So anyway, not trying to make this long, but they basically said, in the right of way, you must have underground irrigation pipe if you are going to irrigate, or if you want xeriscape. But if you're gonna have the traditional landscaping, you need to have the piping along the right of way, not heads. Also, the first 5 feet inside the property to move back the irrigation head so that when it sprays, it only lands to the property line and eventually it goes out. So a little, and then they added something about the licensed irrigators, but we'll bring that up back to you, what was there and what are the changes. So we kind of put the whole document there that you guys have. You might want to read, I don't know if you guys got time to read it, but to digest it, but really, that's really the changes at the Technical Review Board. And as far as staff is concerned, we support that, so, I don't.
Okay, so summarizing your changes, the changes are, first of all, the public right-of-way, instead of having irrigation systems that have spray heads, they're gonna recommend drip irrigation. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
The second change that you mentioned was, in private property, you're now dictating that, or they're proposing to dictate that the irrigation system be 5 feet from the property, from the edge of the property?
See what-
Inside?
Yeah, well, we're making, if you're going to irrigate in your property, the spray heads tend to blow off, and the committee looked at this, irrigator said, it's just the way you design it. There's many different ways to design. So yes, they're wanting it to move back so that even if there's wind or whatever, there's not that much runoff into the public right-of-way, curb and gutter, which is the concern that staff had brought up. When I mean staff, I mean engineering and Public Works Director, Mr. John Orfila, had brought that up as well in the Technical Review Board Committee in reference with the street pavement ordinance, to keep that into account. I don't know if you remember the valley gutters or whatever were they, or French drains they were asking for because of the irrigation. So this is kind of I guess, a reactionary change in the ordinance for what they're proposing anyway. That's their proposal. And so they want to bring it up to this commission and to look at it, and you guys can have your own comments, and that way maybe city council may have 2 versions of this, and they can debate to their heart's content on what they want to pass.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I understand that there's gonna be a meeting next week that is gonna be in reference to this particular item.
Well, we are going to meet, we meet every first Wednesday of the month, so yesterday was the first, well, actually today's the first, but yeah, next Wednesday would be the first Wednesday of the month, and we will meet, and based on your, comments, obviously you can't make a decision today, but this is just being brought up. It'll be brought again on December 6th, And then again, right after that, is there just one reading? Okay, then after that, you guys can,
Then it'll go to council.
then at that point, then we will submit to council. So before we submit to council, we wanted to abide by what the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Planning and Zoning Department asked us to do. So-
And I feel that, that the changes are good. I think it protects not only the street, but also some of the items that, whether it's private or public property. But I received a couple of calls from some of the irrigators, and I would like to see the possibility of you contacting them and probably make sure that everybody understand the change on the ordinance. And when you get them together, if it's in order, Mr. Chairman, I would like to be invited, or any of the members of the
We
committee.
can also have them here on the December 6th meeting for, if you guys have any questions for licensed irrigators, we could,
Well, just a minute. Please finish.
And what we want to do, we want to be able to understand, so we can communicate with the community, and just to make sure that that the members, the irrigators, the industry, that they know exactly what they're going into, and that we're not creating a hardship either for them or for the community. Anytime that we bring an ordinance, it creates a cost for the industry, and then that's passed on to the community, and so there is a hardship for them. So that's what I want to do. I just want to make sure that we're bringing an ordinance that is correct for the community and the industry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I have a question. So I think I noticed it, let me see, give me a second. On page, there was a page here where there was like a strike through on a sentence or word.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, here it is, it's on
Yeah.
page.
Yeah.
It's on page.
It's open.
Well, anyway, let me say this. The question I have for you is, okay, so this page has a strike through. So when I read this, this tells me that everything that's on here is the same as the prior ordinance, and then the strike through is only the change? Or is this not have all the strike throughs and additions that were made to the prior ordinance?
so this document is supposed to represent, any strike-throughs is what we looked at and saying, they're recommending. Now, this is not the Planning and Zoning Commission. The Technical Review Board is recommending that these changes be made to this document, or to this ordinance, right? This is under the Plumbing Code, Chapter 25 of the Plumbing Code, which is most of the irrigation falls. There's also a little section in the water conservation that is basically water cops, you know, are you irrigating too much, you're gonna get a fine. So, but the irrigation ordinance as it's being presented in this draft order, and, yes, the strike-throughs are
So this is the complete, in other words, everything that's not struck through already exists?
correct.
Okay, all right, that's what I was confused about.
And, well, let's go one step further. None of what you told us, the changes that are being proposed are in here.
Yeah, I looked through it, I only saw one strike.
None of the proposed changes are, because any change to an ordinance, it's either gonna be a strike-through when you're gonna delete, or you're gonna italicize whatever's new.
Hold on, let me view this.
And I didn't see any italicized wording in here. So I'm gonna make an assumption that it's not in here, or is this,
Let's look, maybe.
You know what, look at the one up there.
See,
Yeah,
see this?
I don't think we have
Well, we
that.
don't have that
I don't think
version.
we have that version.
Okay.
It's the same one, it's just you get it in Word formatted.
Oh, okay, so,
Well-
The system converts it into PDF.
but there is a format when you're gonna change an ordinance that you gotta
Right,
follow.
right, no, we're definitely making sure that we underline, we bold.
so we need that.
So, okay, so this was given to Plan Zoning, and we can, I guess they can email you guys the version of this so
Got
that
it,
it can
okay.
be visible.
Yeah, we'll correct that.
Yeah, that's the only thing, because then we were reading and we don't know what's new. and what's
Gotcha,
old.
it may all be, see, because when I was reading it on there, it
Yeah, I
looked all
thought like,
black
wow,
and
it's
white,
so cool in the ordinance.
and it was different.
Yeah.
So, yes, and let me, if you want, most of this stuff is, let me see where it is.
I guess we should wait for the format and then.
Yeah, this is more of an introduction, and like I said, I was only bringing up the highlights of what this, we met countless times on this irrigation
And then
ordinance.
I had a second question.
Yes, sir.
The second question is, so will people who currently have irrigation systems that are not gonna be, let's say this passes and they won't be in compliance, will they have to change their irrigation system or will they be allowed?
Not
to?
unless they come in to redo it.
Okay.
We're not retroacting from now on everybody else. Like if they come in and say, you know what, I'm gonna redo this, I'm not gonna have irrigation here, well, at that point, we're gonna
And
say.
you all have a statement about that in your revised?
Well, as they come in for permits, or we're not talking about existing.
No, I understand that. What my question to you, because since we don't have the red lines, my question to you is there a statement about that being grandfathered in, I
I'm
guess?
not
or
sure
something in here?
there is this exact statement, let's
Okay,
see.
because that's something we may want to add,
Okay,
just off the top of
let
my
me,
head.
add a statement.
Those are my comments.
No, you need that statement.
And that again could be part of your recommendations to city council. In, you know, maybe differ from the, but I can bring this up to the committee on Wednesday, and if they so agree, they could also put it on there. So, and yes, and we will provide this document to you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'd like to have the final version of the ordinance with the changes highlighted.
Sure.
So that we get it before the, what is it, December 3rd meeting?
6.
The 6th meeting,
Sure. I can email.
Yeah, you can
Get all
email
the
it
email from.
so that we
I
can
have it
see-
here, I have it here, we could.
so that we can see what the changes proposed. I mean, you told us what they're proposed, and we just added one, which is a very basic one. It's nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
We need to make a
Any
motion.
changes to the permitting
No?
costs? No?
No, we didn't deal with costs and all that. We did,
We're not gonna drop any of the fees or anything like that?
no, we did talk about how the, San Agustin grass is popular mainly because of the price per square yard. But that really requires, and as we learn more about it, San Agustin grass needs water on the surface. And so the roots themselves are very small and
Shallow.
I don't know if you guys know how it grows, whereas the other grasses, the Bermudas and the Zoysias, and that they have a longer root and the water can be in the soil and the grass will be green. So anyway, so that's another reason we talked about that, how it could impact on, you know, if they change the grass and they change the drip line is more expensive to install. They talked about that. They weighed the options and they said, you know, we're trying to protect the street. So,
And was the motivation to protect the street or was the motivation to
well, that was
conserve
a
water?
directive that was brought up by, again, when the street ordinance was done and because of engineering department and public works department, brought up that issue on the street ordinance. That was more of a directive that to look at it if it costs, and so that was the decision of the technical review. So, I'm not saying that was the objective is to do that, but to look at that. That was what they were tasked to do.
Do we close the meeting and move on to?
There is another item that we were, I don't know if somebody needs to read it. Yeah, I know, I have it here. But we also met and are bringing up another introductory ordinance on the setbacks, also directed by city council.
Before we move on, just to be clear, the chairman was asking for staff to provide a copy of the finished or the draft,
Proposed,
the proposed in ordinance format before the
well,
December
in
6th
the
meeting.
correct format that, you know, where you can see the changes.
Okay.
So that every commission
with the
member here
redlining
can
and
see
striking.
what the changes are. There is a format for changing an ordinance, and now I ask is that they follow that format, where it's in italicizing what the changes are, strikeouts, whatever's gonna be deleted, so that everybody here has a clear vision as to what is being proposed, so that when we do have that 6th meeting, everybody's already seen that. And, you know, if they have any additional comments or any additional items or that they may wanna look at, recommend to add to the city council at that meeting of the 6th, they've already had a chance to study it.
Understood.
I know that Commissioner Dominguez is also interested in attending the meeting on Wednesday.
More than welcome.
And that would be, something that would be very helpful to the commission too.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be there.
We'd be
Okay.
happy to forward it to the members of the commission as soon as we get it from building staff.
Sure, thank you. Okay, with no further ado on this particular item, we move into the next one, which is the dimensional standards. It's a discussion regarding the City of Laredo Development Code, Chapter 24, Article 4 and 5 for the propose of revisiting the dimensional standard setback requirements and any other matters incidental thereto. Okay, let's talk about this item.
Yeah, please. Well, basically, this is, again, this is in, technical review board looked at, this dimensional standards by, as directed by city council. And so the proposed change is to increase the building area and I guess decrease the setbacks in the rear to 5 feet. But whenever there's easements, obviously the easements would dictate, you can't build over an easement. And for existing or new subdivisions. So being able to build all the way up to the 5 feet from the back of the property. So that's one of the main proponents. Again, I'm just highlighting, I'm gonna provide, this is just an introductory, and I think you have it on your package.
No, we don't have it.
We don't have any information on this item.
Provided
What,
this to-
what, I'm sorry, what zones would this affect? Single family?
It's only residential,
Residential?
only
So
residential.
What's the current setback?
Current setback would be in the rear 10,
Residential is 20,
20.
it's 20 in residential.
It depends on the zone.
It depends on
20
the
is
zone.
standard.
10 and 20, 20 is most.
20 in the front and 20 in the rear if it's in a residential zone.
You got a corner lot, you're pretty much stuck with.
Well, the corner
Well-
lot has an additional 10-foot setback on the side.
Okay, and so for the front, they're proposing to have a 10-foot setback only on new subdivisions, but not on corner lots. Corner lots, leave it at 20. Also 10-foot setbacks for carports, kind of that kind of thing, so.
A 10
On
foot-
existing subdivisions as well.
Wait a minute, explain that one to me, 10-foot setbacks for carports?
Right, well, so right now, what the setback is,
For
what is it,
carport?
20? No,
20.
it's 50% of the setback.
For the carport, right?
For a
You're talking about the carport, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, basically allowing them to build, well, they're building up, they have in a lot of cases, front lot, they're looking at new and existing of the front lot utilities. So the first 10 feet of the property on the new front lot utility subdivisions is, the first 10 feet is for utilities. So obviously, they couldn't build on that. We're not diminishing any parking requirements. We're just saying you still need to abide by the parking requirements, but it allows you to build more on the front, up to the 10-foot instead of the 20-foot.
Wait a minute, if you're going in your current
Not
setback.
just carports, I'm talking about living square feet as well.
Oh, okay, so not.
Not
you're
just
talking-
carports.
So then you're basically talking about, if you're currently built in a subdivision right now and you had a 20-foot front setback, you're saying that the proposal is that any addition can go up to
10 feet.
the 10-foot line. They're
Yes.
allowed to build 10 feet into the 20-foot setback.
Good evening. Commissioner, I'm Juan Salinas with the Technical Review Board. I think on the front setback, for existing subdivisions, I think we kind of concluded that it wouldn't make any sense for folks to be adding to the front. I think the proposal was that the rear setback gets adjusted within the zones, whether it's existing or new subdivision. And I think that 10-foot front setback was only in a planned subdivision, in new subdivisions where it would actually, the setback would actually be on the lot itself, on the plat itself, for review by the
So you're
PA.
talking about future developments on that 10-foot setback.
In the front, yes, sir. so that you wouldn't have your neighbor kind of build out.
Well, that was what I was gonna say. I mean, a lot of times what's gonna happen is, yeah, because the way he explained it, I said, the aesthetics is gonna be shot for all neighborhoods.
All the roof lines would be
Yeah,
out.
it's
kinda
just
do
gonna look
whatever you want
horrible.
up there, yeah.
I guess the next question I have, and maybe you can answer this. The proposal on the rear setback right now was to go to 5 feet,
That was the.
or,
5 or 6 foot, depending on the easements in the rear. And that was, what we kind of did there was we had the fire department there, we had the staff there, AEP was there. And mostly what was discussed was, I think what we did there was we kind of took them to the maximum that would be possible. So whether or not the Planning and Zoning Commission or the City Council ultimately, whatever you decide to do, I think that was, we kind of vetted out all the different scenarios, especially in new subdivisions where AEP is primarily going into the front as opposed to the rear. We just kind of vetted it out of what the maximum possible would be and not affect anything. As far as aesthetics or anything else, going forward, that might change, but with what we were able to vet out there, that's as aggressive as we were able to get.
let me ask you a question on those rear setbacks. So we're basically looking anywhere between 5 or 6. So in between houses, at the max, you'd have 12 feet, potentially.
Potentially, if somebody decides to actually
Right,
do that.
on both sides. So did anybody actually study the actual effects of noise on those shorter setbacks?
No, but that's
Because, I
a very
mean,
good point.
think about it. You're gonna have barking dogs right on your window. I mean, those are kind of impacts that, you have to look at when you're building a community. The reason for setbacks is give you a little bit of that division so that you don't have high density, really. It's really what it is. I mean, right now, when you reduce setbacks, and I don't know what the correct setback would be, but certainly if we're going from 20 to 5, that seems like an extreme, okay? But I think we need to consider that aspect of noise pollution in between the units. The second thing that I would take into consideration too is everybody here likes to barbecue.
Sure.
So now you have smoke going that could be blowing into somebody's house. Little things that you guys need to kind of like analyze a little bit too. And I realize that we're all trying to come up with a product that kind of works for, the high dollar cost per square foot.
Sure.
But those are things that I think should be taken into consideration, because if we're planning communities, we also need to look at the aesthetics. And not only that, we need to look at the human aspect and the well-being of humans. When you cluster humans together, there seems to be problems.
If I may,
It's a very good point.
real quick. What I see is that now we're gonna have smaller lots, okay, with the same size of houses that we're building right now. I feel, Mr. Chairman, that we should try to work out, not with a smaller setback, but rather with something that would be comfortable. What you mentioned as far as density, now we're gonna have in a smaller piece of land, we're gonna be able to plant more lots, okay, and create more houses. And that's good for the industry, for development. But for the residents that are gonna be living there, the residents are gonna be exposed or limited to the backyard. So we need to be real careful with that. We already have a couple of problems. One of them is parking. We're planting lots that are so small that any resident with 3 vehicles, they have to park on the street, and it creates a hazard. So now if we shorten the setback, now we're creating a adverse living condition for that particular person. So we need to look at that. If we can get the changes, so we can actually look at it before we even decide if that should be going to city council or not.
Yes, of course, and I think it was, I don't think it was premature here, but I think it was, we kind of put it on there just so everybody can see, and we can start brainstorming, so when we come back on the 6th. And what we're gonna do is bring I guess a graph, like kind of like a site plan showing setbacks and homes and everything as existing and then as proposed. And that way we can kind of see it, visually what it looks like. and maybe a list of pros and cons for each things that we
Sure.
had considered and that we're gonna consider, next Wednesday as well.
Be good. Commissioner Flores, I know you had a question.
I do wanna know, what's the motivation for this? Like, where did this come from? Where did this
Livable
idea
square
come from?
feet.
City council,
I can answer that.
oh, sure.
Victor Linares for the record. Pretty much one of the council members, one of the concerns that they had was, there was, from the building aspect, we do provide enforcement. And so a lot of the common violations that we see is people building, violating the setbacks, pretty much the front and the rear, pretty much what the discussions kind of made. And so it was kind of just trying to create something that allows, where we have more flexibility for the customer and trying to shorten also that aspect of violations. But of course, having with all the, the ideas and concepts kind of put together, but it kind of started with violations and things of that nature. So it's just trying to make it more flexible for the owner.
What was the council number?
It was Councilman Rodriguez. He was actually the one who introduced the motion to bring this item to the TRB.
And let me ask you this, how does it have any effect at all on like the low density designation on the comp plan?
I know there's been, as general comments.
Isn't that residential? The residential is a low density, right?
Correct, yeah.
And so then this would create a higher density?
Yes,
Is that not maybe it's a different definition of density? Like maybe it still fits within the definition of low density in the comp plan, even though it's gonna be a higher density?
It will be, and essentially it will be increasing density, front or rear or such, because in essence, what you're gonna be adding is granted, it could be different uses, but most likely you will see those additional bedrooms. And so it will increase density, yeah.
I'd like to add, there's also, there's deed restrictions, like in certain subdivisions already says you can't build this. This is not superseding that. This is when there is no established what to do on a lot. So in certain low-density subdivisions, if there's already deed restrictions on what you can do, that still dictates.
Right. So I guess a follow-up question I have.
But the city does not enforce deed
Right,
restrictions.
correct. The city does not enforce that.
I understand. Those are things that are wrong with the land. I understand that. My question is, what is the effect of property values going to be where you have neighborhoods that have larger setbacks and larger yards, and then now you have like mixed in areas where there's going to be these, assuming this passes, with these smaller yards and the homes right up on the street like that. I mean, is that something that we need to look at in terms of a quality of life issue, or is that something that is not the city council or the city's, something they need to look at?
I can tell you what it affects. It will be, if you build more, it's gonna value more. I mean, that's.
You have more livable square feet.
Yeah, remember the appraisal
so-
district? Yeah.
So if I understand this correctly, what's happening is like families keep adding on to their homes until they get to a point where they're.
Yeah, but what if you have a neighborhood that's got a hodgepodge, like, right, like one house is, like, got this weird shape because they have this weird design on it?
Are you talking about new residential?
Yeah, well, it's gonna affect
Well-
new residential, right?
Yeah, but if you have deed restrictions, like you said, then you have to apply for those deed restrictions.
I think that's something we need to think about, right? Like, does it make sense?
But
Like,
the
does it make sense? Does it make sense for the developer? Does it make sense for the home buyer? Can they resell their homes? I mean, are those things we need to think about?
You add more livable square feet, and also, I think the comp plan calls for the comp, correct me if I'm wrong, but it calls for no setbacks. They're promoting no setbacks in some areas.
We'd have to look that up.
I think we need to analyze it. I'd like to know that. I'd like to understand that, the relationship between what they're thinking, not them, but the
Yeah.
Councilman
sure.
Vidal.
I'm not sure if that relates only to downtown when they want to remove setbacks or everything in general, but I remember reading something about
Yeah,
that.
well, I think we need to analyze that.
We do.
We need to
And the
know it.
intent was to look at ways to, give them more options to build and, that.
You have big families that.
When the comp plan people were here, one of the guys, the one that was doing the housing part, we drove through some of the neighborhoods, and he said, the problem with this neighborhood is that the people here, they're not gonna really be able to resell their homes because of certain decisions that were made on how those neighborhoods were laid out. And so, I don't know if he was right, he may have been wrong, I'm not sure, but that's something that I wanna take into account when we're considering something like this, you know?
Sure.
Because we have a directive, right, from the city council that we need to implement the comp plan, so that's the policy direction
Right.
that we've been given. And so I just want to make sure that this, you know, coincides with that
Valid.
policy direction.
Valid point, and we will bring it up to the technical review board to address it.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item we have on the agenda is review and consideration of the revision of the new trade center subdivision master plan. The intent is industrial. The purpose of this revision is the addition of an easement on lots 14 and 15 in phase 3.
Chairman,
Yes,
I have to recuse myself from this
Well,
because
you
it's a different
can't.
plan. I have to.
we won't have a quorum.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant has requested this item be tabled.
I was just about to say, and okay, I'm glad that that's the case.
I'm sorry, what?
It's gonna be tabled.
Oh, okay.
They requested tabling. There was a big concern to me as to why this is even going forth. Because one of the comments in here very clearly states that there is no way they can tie into sanitary sewer. So I'm going, why is this coming to us at this point? It doesn't make any sense.
And I imagine that's why it's being requested, the tabling.
Okay, so it's being tabled then. All right, okay. And the next item that we have, preliminary consideration of the replats of lots 5, 6A, and 7A, Block 1, amended Encino Plaza subdivision, Unit 2A, and into lots 5A, 6B, and 7B, Block 1, Encino Plaza subdivision, Unit 2A. The intent is commercial. Purpose of this replat is to remove a gas line easement and the no-build zone. The site is a 5.75 acre tract, and it is located south of Delmar Boulevard and west of McPherson Road.
Mr. Chairman, we would like to amend our comments. Instead of comment number 1 under planning, which currently says must submit a letter notifying planning that the well has been plugged, we would like to amend that to say special use permit for plugging and abandoning of the well shall be required or copy of the process special use permit.
Very good. And your second comment stays?
Yes.
That's the standard comment. All right, your proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from water and utilities, and a notice to developer from planning. Yes, sir, engineer of record?
Armando Guerra with the client, representing the client with Premier Engineering. We concur with the comments.
Even with the change of the comment that was made right now?
Yes.
Very good. All right. Any questions from the commission?
No question.
What are the wishes of the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to the following comments with the amendment on item number 1 with a special use permit for the plugging of the gas.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. The next item is preliminary consideration of the replat of Lot 3, Block 17, Lakeside subdivision. Phase 1 into lots 3A through 3D, Block 17A, and lots 3 through 31, Block 17B, Lakeside subdivision, Phase 1 into the intent is residential, and the purpose of this replat is to create 12 smaller lots out of one large lot. This is a 2.2 acre tract, and it is located east of Loop 20 and west side of Lakeside subdivision, Phase 1. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from water and utilities, and a notice to developer from planning. Yes, sir.
We concur with the comments.
Very good. Any questions for engineer? What are the wishes of the commission?
Make a motion to approve, subject to the following comments.
Second?
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is preliminary consideration of the replat of the Kaledi Industrial Park Phase 1. The intent is, what is that? Industrial. Okay. The purpose of this replat is to create 3 smaller lots out of one large lot. The site is 30.49 acre tract located west of I-35 and north of Loop 20. The zoning for this 3-lot development is M1. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from water and utilities, and a notice to developer. Yes, sir.
evening, Commissioners, Chairman, and Board. Ivan Morales for the record from Pewa Consulting. I'm here representing the client, Detson Holdings, and I concur with all your comments.
Very good. Thank you. What are the wishes of the commission?
Make a motion to approve subject to the following comments.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, I do need to recuse myself on C 7D also.
Mr. Commissioner, this item is also, the applicant
tabled?
requested to be tabled.
The item's tabled. Okay. So now we're moving into 7E. Preliminary consideration of the plat of, what is it, DCAF, Mines Road. The intent is commercial. This is a 5-acre tract located at the northeast corner of Game Creek Boulevard on FM 1472. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from engineering, from fire, water and utilities, and a notice to developer. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and staff. Jay Steno from Bell Consulting, here to represent DCAF Properties, and here to state that we concur with all your comments.
Okay. Any questions for the engineer? If not, what are the wishes of the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve subject to the comments.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. The next item is preliminary consideration of the plat of Pinnacle Industrial Center, FM 1472, Unit 3. It's a 49.8884 acre tract. It's located southwest of the intersection of Vidal Cantu Road and West Peak Road. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from engineering, water and utilities, traffic, and a notice to develop from planning. I have a question for you. What is this? Some lots don't have access by the traffic safety? What does that mean?
I wasn't sure about that one.
Where is,
They all front a street, so.
where is the traffic department?
After reviewing the plats, Vanessa and I, all lots,
We determined that all had access,
Well,
so
that's why when I saw this, I'm going, what the? And I thought Sinaí was here, wasn't she?
I thought she was too. Could you?
See if she's outside. Oh, Sinaí. Hi.
Hi, what's the question?
The question is, you all have a comment here that says some lots don't have access. What do you mean by that?
I believe that I saw that, like, they were not fronting any street. Are there any lots that are not fronting any street?
No, they all front the street.
Yes?
Yeah.
Can you show me?
Sure.
it's on the screen.
It's on the screen.
On that unit, could I point?
This is
Do you
unit
have
3.
a pointer?
Where should I point? Should I walk over here?
Yeah.
So this is a street called West Peak,
Uh-huh.
and we have these two lots here and this lot. That's the entirety of that plat.
And it's a continuation. West Peak is a continuation
Yeah,
from
the road that's already out there.
the road to Story, yeah.
It's paved all the way up to this point, and then we were gonna continue it this far.
And, over here on the bottom?
That's not in the plan right now. This is a future unit. This would be our unit 7.
Okay, so in the future you will continue that street and
Right.
then you're gonna have,
And we would connect it to El Pico Road.
okay, so every lot is gonna have,
Yes.
okay.
So you're withdrawing your comment?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make,
Any questions for the engineer?
No.
You're okay with the rest of the comments?
I concur with the rest of the comments, yes.
Thank you very much.
I'll make a motion to approve, deleting the traffic safety comment and approve subject to the rest of the comments.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, preliminary consideration of the plat of the Pinnacle Industrial Center, Unit 4, And the site is 68.4175 acres. It's located southwest of the intersection of El Cantu and West Peak Road. The proposed action is to approve. Wait a minute, there is no recommendation. It says proposed action. Is it to approve?
To approve.
All right.
That's actually why I'm here.
Okay, so it is to approve, subject to the comments, right?
Yes. and I concur with
Okay,
the comments.
you concur with the comments?
Yes.
Hold on, the traffic comment?
And strike, wait a minute.
There another one?
This is a
Including the traffic
different plat, isn't it?
This is
Yeah.
unit 4.
This is the bottom part, right?
This is the
Yeah.
top part.
Is the same comment on here from traffic? I didn't remember that.
Yes.
I think that's just a cut and paste deal, but we can ask CNA. We had these units submitted as one plat, and then there was a preference by the planning department to have them as two, because they're not contiguous. There's a question about whether or not that's allowable or not. I don't know, we don't really care. It was convenient to submit them as one plat, but we separated them, so I'm guessing the comment was a copy from the other plat.
Do we remove?
They all have access.
Yeah, they do.
They all have access. Yeah, I can see it.
You can see the
Yeah.
road's already,
Yeah.
it's already a public road.
Yeah. So, okay.
All right.
Yeah, I make a motion to approve, removing, traffic safety comment and approve subject to the comments already provided by plan.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The next item we have is a final consideration of the plat. How many final is that? Of R&W, right, subdivision phase 1.
There's several approvals.
And, it's gonna be, let's see.
Take them all.
Yeah, let's take them all, make a motion.
Hold on, there's one that I have to not do, hold on.
If that's the case, then let me take them one at a time real quick.
Well, maybe we can
Because
do all
I
of them
don't
except
have
for
a
the one that I
quorum
can't. Hold on.
if you leave.
If he leaves, there is no quorum.
That's
No,
what
no,
I
that's
said.
what I'm saying. Why don't we do all of them except for the one I can't do? Hold on.
All right, let's go ahead and,
10A,
9A, I can't do 9A.
all right, so let's do 8A, 8B,
8F.
8C,
No, 9A is the one I can't do.
all right, 8D,
All the way to 8F.
8E,
8F.
8F. So, can you make a motion so we can take them all together?
I make a motion to take them all together.
I'll second that
We
motion.
have a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and we have a motion for action.
Make a motion to approve, the items.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second that
And
motion.
a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm gonna skip over then to item 10A. And this is, consideration of the model subdivision rules compliance for the plat of Villa San Agustin Unit 6. And the proposed action is approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the items.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
As for item 9A, because he has, Commissioner Flores has a conflict, we cannot take action on this item because we will not have a quorum. Therefore, you'll have to repost it for our next meeting. And at that point in time, we'll be able to take action.
I'll make a motion to post for next meeting.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
There you go.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Hold on, 7.